Many missed opportunities throughout our lives were never intentionally rejected. They were casually placed in the someday category. Someday I'll do it, just not now. I can't do it right now. Sometimes someday is tied to a timeline many of us were taught to follow. Opportunities are pushed back until after I finish with school, after I land that higher paying job, after I get married, after I buy a house, after I have my kids. These milestones that people often discuss, in a way, have been made to feel like the things that have to happen within a certain order in our lives. This can result in naturally placing other large ticket, big bucket list items you desire to remain on hold while you work your way through a timeline that may have been shaped more by society than by you as a unique individual. Then years pass, circumstances change, and your unique life starts to take shape. Suddenly, one day you realize that the window of opportunity you kept putting off is pretty much closed. That realization can cut deep. You might start to reflect and see what you could have done differently, feel deep regret, and also know that you can't go back and experience it at that time in your life. That can be a real feeling of grief within that. Today, I want to explore some of these common thoughts and the feelings that can come up when you realize that someday you were counting on may have passed you by. We'll consider how hindsight can change the way you see your earlier choices, what forgiveness and acceptance might look like for you now, and how hypnotherapy may help when guilt and regret keep returning automatically. Hello and welcome. I'm Jasmin Braithwaite, a certified hypnotherapist. On this channel, we explore how the mind works, why we develop certain habits and tendencies, and how hypnosis and hypnotherapy can help us create meaningful, lasting change. Let's get started. Hindsight can make the past look much clearer than it felt while you were actually living it. When the decision was in front of you, you spent time trying to imagine what the outcome might be. And looking back now, you know what happened. From where you stand today, the other choice may seem obvious. You might tell yourself, I should have known better. Why didn't I just do it? But today's clarity and wisdom that you're using to judge yourself came from years of experience you hadn't lived yet. At the time, you had to make the decision without knowing the best possible outcome. You were responding to your life as it existed then, including the fears and expectations that felt real to you. Since then, you've learned more about yourself and what really matters to you. Recognizing all of this now doesn't erase what the decision costs. It gives you a fairer way to understand why the choices you made sense to you then, even if it no longer makes sense to you now. Some regret needs room to be grieved. The opportunity may be gone, or the timing that made it possible may have passed. Something different may still be available, but it doesn't give you back that particular time in your life. When people are in pain, they often are encouraged to think about someone who had it worse. But that's not helpful. When a hospital asks you to rate your pain on a scale of 1 to 10, the question is about the pain you're experiencing. If your pain feels like a 10 to you, someone else's 10 doesn't turn yours into a 5. Comparing your suffering to someone else's may give you perspective, but it doesn't process your grief. Sometimes it leaves you feeling as though you don't have the right to be hurt because another person has experienced something more severe. That's unnecessary additional guilt. Comparison can work in another direction too. You may look at someone who moved forward with the same opportunity that you postponed, or they reached a milestone at the age that you hoped to reach it. Their life can start to feel like evidence of what yours should have been, but comparing your life to theirs doesn't tell you what your life should have looked like. It may intensify your regret without helping you to understand your own choices or what you need now. Grief gives you room to acknowledge, this mattered to me, and I wish it had been different. You can appreciate what you have in your life right now and still feel the loss of a possibility that didn't happen. Both experiences can be real, very real at the same time. Choices were made inside the life you were living at the time. What felt possible or not possible then was influenced by what you had been taught how much support you had or not had, and what you believed you could risk. Fear can sound very responsible. It can tell you, this isn't the right time. I should wait until life is more settled and secure and stable. Someone close to you may have discouraged you from taking your opportunity without offering any of the support that would have made the choice easier, yet you truly valued their opinion. After hearing certain people give you messages for long enough, they can start to become the way you speak to yourself. Years later, you may realize what felt like your own judgment was partially an internalized version of what other people believed you should do. You can take responsibility for a decision and still consider what shaped it. Both matter when you're trying to understand the version of yourself that made that choice. One question you might consider is, was I choosing what I truly wanted, or what felt would be permissible or be viewed as acceptable for me at that time? People often say, you did the best you could with what you knew at the time. And that may be true, but when you're living with a painful consequence, the words can sometimes feel a little too easy. The version of you who made that decision didn't know how everything would turn out. They didn't know which opportunities would return and which ones wouldn't. Putting something off until someday may have felt like a responsible delay. They may not have realized they were making a decision that could eventually become permanent. You know that now because you lived through what happened next. That earlier version of you didn't have access to those years of knowledge that you have now. They were making choices with the fears, beliefs, circumstances, and understanding that they had at that time. Forgiving yourself doesn't require you to pretend the decision had no consequences, and it doesn't require you to call it the right decision. It simply means that you stop putting that version of yourself on trial, using information they didn't have. Think about a pet that accidentally knocks something off of your coffee table. You may be upset about what was broken, but you understand that your pet didn't mean to cause the damage. Or think about a child you love who made a mistake before they were old enough to fully understand what they were doing. You would still deal with what happened, but your love for them wouldn't disappear. You can offer that same kind of loving compassion to the person you were. You can grieve what they didn't know and what you lost because of it, while still recognizing that they were doing what made sense to them at the time. Acceptance may look like allowing two truths to exist at the same time. I wish I had made a different choice, and I recognize that this is what happened. Regret can become even heavier when you believe you were supposed to make the perfect decision. You may look back as though there was one correct path through life, and you failed to take it. But decisions aren't made in that way. They're made without knowing everything that will follow. As the years and experiences compile, they become part of a life story that is unique to each person. Every life has its ups and downs. There are times when things come together and times when they don't. This missed opportunity may be one of the painful parts of your life story. It matters, but it doesn't have to become proof that your entire life went wrong. Acceptance leaves room for you to wish the outcome had been different. You don't have to convince yourself that everything worked out the way it was supposed to, or immediately turn this experience into some sort of big life lesson. You can simply begin by recognizing that the past cannot be reopened and lived again. You may still feel sadness when something reminds you of what you missed, and still imagine how your life could have been different from time to time. Those feelings don't automatically mean you haven't accepted what happened. Over time, acceptance may allow the memory to remain part of your life without requiring you to relive the decision every day. The opportunity may have taken something important with it when it passed. Continuing to punish yourself doesn't bring it back. It can only take more energy in your present life away from you. Sometimes you're living out your day and suddenly feelings of guilt and regret randomly come up before you consciously decided to think about the past. A photograph, a birthday, or seeing someone else experience the opportunity you missed can bring the entire decision back to the forefront of your mind. Your mind may once again immediately begin reviewing what happened, and imagine what you could have done differently. The same thoughts can bring back the same emotional response, even though many years may have passed. When this happens repeatedly, the connection between the memory and the feeling of regret can become an automatic habit. Remembering the opportunity triggers the guilt, regret, and self-blame. You may already understand consciously that the past cannot be changed, but that understanding doesn't always stop the emotional reaction. At that point, the issue is also about the tendency your mind has become accustomed to whenever that memory comes up. This is where working with the subconscious mind with intention may be helpful. In diving into the subconscious mind work, I'd like to give a little detail here about how hypnosis factors into this whole scenario. Hypnosis is a natural state of narrowed focus, similar to what you may experience when you're absorbed in a good movie, deeply involved in reading a book, or in deep thought about a recent conversation. You're still aware of what's happening and able to think, respond, and make choices. And hypnotherapy is the intentional use of hypnosis to help people work with their automatic habits and tendencies to create lasting change in support of how they consciously want to be. Right, so in hypnotherapy, suggestions are statements fed back to you while in hypnosis based on the changes you already said you wanted to make in session, such as feeling calmer, responding differently, or strengthening a new habit. For this kind of regret, hypnotherapy may help make emotional reactions to the memory less automatic. The memory remains, but guilt and self-blame may become less intense. During hypnosis, you can practice viewing your past self with more compassion. I wish I had chosen differently, but I made that decision with the knowledge and perspective I had at that time. Hypnotherapy may also help you recognize and loosen the influence of old messages from family or social expectations that still shape how you judge yourself today. Hypnotherapy helps to create more space between the memory and your usual reaction, allowing you to acknowledge the regret, offer yourself compassion, and return your attention to the present moment. Of course, hypnotherapy can't restore lost time or reveal what might have happened. It may, however, help you change your responses to the past so it takes less energy from your life today. Living in the present should mean utilize your hard-earned pearls of wisdom when another opportunity appears. You may notice yourself placing something new into the someday category again. The circumstances still might not feel perfect, and the people around you may still have their opinions, but this time, you have a little more life experience to help you recognize when you're making a thoughtful decision and when an old fear is making it on your behalf. Today, you might aim for a more conscious choice that could be a genuine yes or a thoughtful no, or a decision to wait for a clear reason. What matters is having the chance to hear your own voice before automatically following an expectation that may not belong to you. There may still be opportunities out there for you now, and they may look different from the ones that passed, and they won't replace what was lost. They are part of your life you have in front of you today, and they deserve to be considered on their own terms. What you learned from the past cannot change what happened then. It can help you make present-day decisions with greater self-trust, while you still have the opportunity to choose. And that's the good news. The someday you were counting on may have passed, and acknowledging that can still hurt. Acceptance doesn't change what was lost. It may help you stop expecting the person you were back then to have known everything that you know now. The life you're living today will inevitably become a time you look back on in the future. The knowledge you worked so hard to gain is available to you right now, while you're still making choices about what comes next. One question I offer you to consider is, what would acceptance allow you to give your attention to now? Your answer doesn't have to erase the regret. It can simply help you recognize where you would like more of your energy to go in the present. If you found value in today's conversation, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. I share weekly content on hypnosis, personal growth, and practical ways to create meaningful change. Actually, I'm currently offering a complimentary hypnotherapy experience that includes 2 virtual sessions. If you'd like to learn more or schedule sessions, you'll find the booking link in the description below. Thanks for spending this time with me, and I will see you soon.